It's 8 p.m. in the evening, and that's the perfect time to slowly head over to the spot and start feeding the bream. I've actually been standing here already 2 hours earlier. So, 6 p.m., and went straight to the spot. Threw in some feed, set up the gear, got everything ready for the night, so that as soon as it gets dark, you've already got your rods in the water. And then, it's all about Big Bream. The player Phosphor had posted a little message in Discord that he's been standing at this exact spot for quite a while and regularly catching nice bream. And bream fishing definitely makes sense. From a certain level onward, you can catch some really nice bream here. Big ones. 3.8 kilos just now. Already caught. Very, very, very nice. So that's definitely worth it. Laid back casting here, always with feed mix, and of course, the right bait. We'll take a look at all of that in detail now. How do you make the feed mix? How far do you have to be skilled to unlock it? And where do you get the bait from? Those are of course the big questions now. Bam! And we're right back at it here. Yeah! First I need to check how far I can set the brake, but it's looking really good. Nice big bream here. And it's not even properly dark yet, so it can definitely keep going like this. Alright, let's keep going. Next one. Yeah. So starting from 1 kilo with this coloration, that's also wonderful. That's exactly how the bream should be coming in, no problem at all. Let's keep grinding, and now let's get some more feed on. So this is what it's looking like right now. Only 3 minutes at the spot, just started and already catching the first fish. So, what's important for bream fishing, like I said, be at the spot around 6 p.m. so you already have feed mix ready. If you can't make your own bream feed mix, then head back to Windenbach, back to Elk Lake. Catch the small fish there at the level 1 waters, because on those waters, you don't need any feed mix to catch fish. Just drop that damn worm into the water and catch a fish, at least until you can make proper bream feed mix. Back to the starter waters. From level 12 onwards, from Old Fortress, it's time to use feed mix, because the fish here already respond very, very well to feed. Zach, and here we go again. Yep, right the next one. Now, here comes the bait part. The bait isn't that easy either, so that means even at level 12, you might not be able to fish with this bait yet, because you can't even buy it. You can only buy it from level 16 onward. I'll show that in a bit. And later you can also craft it yourself. But for that, of course, you need to be a bit further along with bait crafting. No worries though, we're going to take a look at other baits too. And one of the simplest and easiest baits you can make is also a classic bait for bream fishing. And like I said, we'll look at them all, one by one. And here we go again. Yep, and another big bream. Very nice. So, what do we already know? Important, always have enough feed ready for the bream. We'll check out the different baits and the timing. So, bream is a night fish. That means be here in the evening and then fish all through the night until maybe 9 or 10 in the morning. Stay at the spot and try to catch bream. As for the setup, we'll look at that too now. We go in here with a relatively light setup. We don't want to go too big and too heavy because bream are a bit shy, so we need to be a bit careful. Let's check out the setup here. This is a classic loop rig. Loop rigs are one of the most important rigs. If you can't make one yet, just use a basic bottom rig. At the beginning, it doesn't even need to be skilled. Later, it's definitely worth investing in the loop rig for simple natural baits. And early on, you can just use the basic rigs, especially at low level. You don't need to put skill points into it. What's important though, with this bottom rig, we don't use a sinker. We use a feeder cage right away. Ideally one that's camouflaged a bit, either protected or more hidden by its structure and material. They're usually a bit more expensive, but they're worth it because they stay more discreet in the water and the bream bites better. As for the leader, we don't go too thick, 7 kilograms fluorocarbon, so between 5 and let's say max 9 kilograms. That's really, really good. If you go in with around 5 kilograms, you'll end up in a proper fight with a 3 kilograms bream, which has its charm, of course, but you won't catch as many fish in that time. so a slightly stronger setup is more efficient. Whether you're fishing here with a light picker rod or a feeder rod, it's not that important in the beginning. You can even use the basic feeder starter set and already catch your first bream with it. A size 1 hook is always a good idea. Size 1 works really well, so you can definitely use that. And in this case, we're using cottage cheese dough as bait. So cottage cheese dough. And now it's already dark and things are really taking off here. We'll take a look at some other baits in a moment that also work well and cast out again. Yes, 1, 2, 3, all in a row. And that's what makes bream fishing so interesting. Ideally, you're standing here, pulling out one fish after another at a really nice pace. Then that's a top spot. And also important, ideally, they all have this coloration, not too pale or silvery. We don't want the undersized small bream. They don't bring in any silver. Now let's take another look at the rod. These are other baits that work too. Pearl barley porridge works well, and it's one of the baits you can make really well right from the start. Later, you can also use garlic dough. That's worth it too. And once you've leveled up enough to make garlic dough, that's usually enough, because a lot of bream here bite on garlic dough or on pea porridge. That works really well too. So pea porridge, pearl barley, or garlic dough, these are really good baits for bream fishing. Sometimes bream also go for simple red compost worms or dung worms. That can work too, although more often at other waters. Here at Old Fortress, dough baits usually work best. All right, back out with the rod quickly. By the way, I'm clipped at 10 meters here. So short clip, not casting far at all. Feed mix is always with me. I keep the feed on all the time. You can't really overfeed a bream. This is the standard feed mix. So if we go up to feed, scroll down a bit, you'll see all the pre-mixed feed types. And the bream feed looks like this. Again, we have pearl barley in it. You know now pearl barley is also good bait, so it's also part of the base mix. That's why it works so well. Then we've got maggots in there, millet porridge is in there, and anise oil is in there. So that's the classic, the simple combo. If you want, you can tweak it yourself, rebuild this feed mix manually, and use the 2 extra slots you have. So if you're using garlic dough, for example, you can also add garlic feed pellets in there. Or if you're using cottage cheese dough, you could mix in some cream or milk powder to steer the feed more towards your bait. But you don't have to do that. Even the normal, standard bream feed mix works really well. And since you're throwing in so much feed with the feeder cage, there's no need to make it more expensive. You can use garlic dough from here onward. Later, you can use cottage cheese dough, but you can only make that once you're level 16 or above, because you only get the cottage cheese at Quarry, and Quarry unlocks at level 16. And at Quarry, in the village, there's a small dairy, and in that dairy, you can buy the ingredients, cheese cubes, and cottage cheese. For the standard bream feed mix, you only need level 3 because that unlocks anise oil, and that's already part of the mix. It's really quick to make. Make sure to put 5 skill points into it so your feed mix has good quality. If you use a very basic mix, its attraction power is not that good. And of course, it keeps going here. Let's pull in some more bream now. Sure, there's a lot of talking going on. Not that much fish, but that's part of it too. The A to Z of bream fishing is simply, everything has to fit, setup, bait, and feed. Yeah, and then all you need is the right spot. And there are several good bream spots at Old Fortress, not just the one I'm standing at right now. This is just one option. We're casting 10 meters into a hole, but you could also stand here and try it out at that spot, or across from here, or up here across. And as you can imagine, we could keep going with that. You could stand right here, or try over here. Especially this area works well, or this part, or directly opposite. And if you find a deep hole, you'll also find the bream there. So either cast from here, or from over here. Bream are always found in those deep holes. So ideally, you scout them out during the day already. And if you find that the small bream are there during the day, then it's worth fishing the spot overnight. And try to pull out the big bream with feed. Bream also regularly show up in cafe orders. Catch 3 bream of at least 1 kilo. That's a standard cafe task. So that's worth doing too. And of course, it's also worth it for the money. Haven't even been 20 minutes at this spot, 76 silver. So the session isn't even halfway done. Normally, I'd keep going until around 10 a.m. And if you notice the small bream start coming in, then just switch the spot. Give it a break. Either change the water or just switch spots and maybe go for tench instead. Or sleeper goby, for example. That's always worth it too. And if your setup is ready, why not try for carp or amur? That's all for bream fishing here at Old Fortress. Get to the spot, test, and like I just showed you, always with the same baits, the same feed mixes, and the typical spots. So, always where the deep holes are in the water, that's where you'll find the bream. If this helped you, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, it helps me a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, tight lines.